The maintenance crew arrived on a Tuesday, the 23rd of October. The seasonal winterization run, same as every year, drain the lines, board the windows, pull the signage before the first hard frost. There were 3 trucks parked at Kessler Ridge trailhead, all of them cold. Not recently cold, cold for days, the crew laid. A man named Briggs, who has done this route for 11 years, walked up to the ranger outpost and found the door unlocked. Inside there was food on a folding table, a pot of something that had been hot and was now green, 3 plates, utensils set down mid-use, a radio plugged into the wall, still running, receiving nothing. He walked the perimeter. He noted the vehicles. He noted the gear stacked neatly by the supply shed, as if someone had organized it before leaving. He noted the personal bags still inside the bunkhouse, one of them open, clothes half folded. Then he found the locker. It was a steel equipment locker, the kind bolted to outpost walls with through bolts and backing plates. This one had been mounted to the interior north wall. He knew this because he had helped install it 4 seasons prior. He remembered the drill bits they burned through on that concrete. The locker was sitting in the tree line, 40 feet from the outpost. Upright, undamaged, still locked. The wall behind it showed the bolt holes, clean and empty. He stood there for a moment. Then he walked back to his truck, told his crew to wait, and drove down the mountain without calling anyone. He has not explained why. He has said only that it did not feel like a thing that should be reported, that it felt like something had already been handled, and that calling attention to it would be a mistake. The official search recovered 2 bodies, both in forest clearings, miles from camp, miles from each other, both with their arms crossed over their chests. The official cause was listed as exposure following a vehicle rollover. 1 ranger was never recovered. The case was closed within 3 weeks. The trail was decommissioned 6 months later for what the agency called resource management reasons. It is still on the map. Listen closely. My name is not something I will give you. What I will give you is this: 15 years as a backcountry ranger in the Pacific Northwest. The last 9 of them in the Gifford-Pinchot district. I am search and rescue certified. I have led bear encounter response training for 4 consecutive years. I have spent more nights in a tent above 4,000 feet than I have spent in any apartment I have ever rented. I do not spook. I want to be precise about that, because everything I am about to tell you will sound like the account of someone who spooks. Someone suggestible. Someone who was tired and scared in a dark forest and filled in what they did not understand with what they feared. I understand why you might hear it that way. I am asking you not to. I was assigned to Kessler Ridge in the 2nd week of September for a trail assessment and wildlife corridor survey. The work was expected to take 10 days. It took 10 days. The work was completed. Not all of us completed it. This is what happened. There were 6 of us. I was lead, responsible for documentation and assessment coordination. I had surveyed 2 other corridors that season, and this was the 3rd. Standard rotation. Denny Marsh was our wildlife biologist, late 40s. Built like someone who had spent his 20s doing physical work, and his 30s thinking carefully about it. He kept a fuel log for every vehicle he touched, mileage in, mileage out, consumption calculated against elevation and load. He had done this for so long it was reflex. He did not trust gauges. He trusted his notebook. Carla Voss handled our geese work, trail mapping, coordinates, spatial data. She was good at her job in a way that did not require anyone's acknowledgement. She drank exactly 2 cups of coffee before she would speak to anyone in the morning. And this was not a joke or an affectation. It was a rule. We respected it. By day 3, Marcus had learned to have her cup ready before she came out of the bunkhouse. Ray Acaffer was our equipment specialist. Every evening without fail, he played solitaire. He had a battered deck of cards, missing the 9 of clubs and both jokers. and he had adapted his game accordingly over what he said were many years. He was methodical in the way that people who have fixed broken things in difficult places tend to be methodical. He did not panic. He assessed. Petra Lund was our botanist, early 30s. Master's degree in ecology from the University of Washington, professional skeptic. When something unusual came up, Petra found the most plausible terrestrial explanation and argued for it clearly and without condescension. She was almost always right. I want to say that clearly. She was almost always right. Her rational explanations were not wishful thinking. They were good science. The fact that she was eventually wrong about one thing does not change that. Marcus Thale was completing his first backcountry rotation. Junior Ranger 26 from a suburb of Portland. He organized his pack by weight distribution and checked it every morning. Adjusting for what we had consumed the day before, he did not complain. He asked good questions. He was the kind of person who would have been excellent at this work if he had been given more time to do it. We drove up on a Sunday. The Gifford Pinchot is not a dramatic forest in the way that some forests are dramatic. It does not announce itself. It is dense and green, and it absorbs sound in a way that city people notice immediately and wilderness people stop noticing within a few hours. By the end of day one, we had stopped noticing it. We set up at the established outpost, ran inventory, checked gear. Denny logged the fuel on all 3 vehicles. Marcus organized the supply shed. Carla had her maps pinned to the wall inside by dinner. We ate together. Ray dealt a hand of cards nobody finished. It felt as it was meant to feel, like a job. The first 3 days were the work. We moved in pairs on the trail assessments, rotating partners so that everyone had logged time with everyone else. The corridor survey required transect walks at set intervals, which meant covering the same ground multiple times from different angles. We were thorough. The forest cooperated. On the morning of day 2, Denny noted in his fuel log that the consumption on the primary truck was running slightly high. Not enough to flag, not enough to report. He assumed it was the elevation and the loaded cargo. He mentioned it over dinner in the way that someone mentions a thing they have noticed and categorized and set aside. We acknowledged it. We moved on. Carla's mapping was clean. Petra found 3 species of interest in the eastern understory and spent most of day 2 in a state of focused satisfaction. Marcus got his transect walks timed to the minute by day 3. Ray fixed a generator coupling that had been vibrating loose since day 1 and seemed pleased about it. The evenings were quiet. The kind of quiet you choose. On the evening of day 3, Carla set down her coffee and said that the birds had gone quiet. We listened. She was right, not gradually quiet the way a forest settles at dusk. All at once quiet, the kind of quiet that you notice because something was there and now is not. Ray said it was probably a hawk. A raptor passing through could clear a canopy in a minute. We agreed with him. Nobody wrote it down. Day 4, Denny found the perimeter. He had gone out before the rest of us to run his morning fuel check, and he came back with his notebook open and his expression careful. He had found a line of disturbed ground around the camp, not a continuous line. An arc, consistent, running at a distance of roughly 60 feet from the outpost on 3 sides. We walked it together. The stride interval was approximately 7 feet. Measured with the tape Denny kept clipped to his vest. The impressions were deep, suggesting significant weight, but there was no claw drag. No toe spread. Nothing that matched bear, which would have been the first and most obvious answer. The pattern was too regular for bear anyway. Bear wander, this did not wander. Petra knelt at one impression for a long time. She said, elk. A disturbed group, circling back repeatedly in response to our survey activity. The noise of our equipment, the unfamiliar scent presence in a corridor they used. Elk could produce a stride interval in this range. The weight was consistent. The lack of claw drag was consistent. She was right about most of it. What she could not fully account for was the regularity. Elk circle, but not like this, not with this precision. The arc held its distance from the outpost within 2 feet across its entire measured length. She acknowledged this was unusual. She said unusual was not the same as unexplainable. We agreed, we documented it, we kept working. Day 5, Marcus found the weaving, a section of the main trail, 40 yards from the junction with the eastern transect, where young saplings had been bent across the path. Not broken, not pushed aside, woven. Branch through branch, deliberately interlaced at approximately chest height for a standing adult. It would have taken hours. It was not there on day 4. We had walked that junction on day 4. Petra looked at it for a long time. Marcus said he wanted to leave. He said it plainly, without drama. He had documented the perimeter track. He had now found this. And he wanted to drive down and file a report, and let someone with more experience make a determination. He said it was a reasonable position and he was not embarrassed to hold it. We voted, 5-1. We stayed. Denny wrote it down in his field log. The time of the vote, the count, the outcome. He documented it the same way he documented fuel consumption, as a fact that had occurred and might later be relevant. I think about that a lot. Day 6 began with Carla's satellite communicator. She ran her check-in at 0700, as she did every morning. The device showed full signal. The transmission indicator confirmed send. No acknowledgement came back from the district office. She tried again at 0800, then 0900, nothing. Ray pulled the secondary radio. He found the housing intact, the antenna connected, the power source functional. He removed the casing to run a component check. The internal transmitter module was gone, not failed. Not corroded, removed. The connector pins were clean. Someone had taken the component out carefully and left everything else in place. We looked at each other across that table for a moment that I do not have a precise way to describe. Then we kept working, because there was not yet a reason to stop working. And because the alternative was to sit in an outpost with no communications and let fear make our decisions. Petra went to the eastern slope for soil samples. She had been planning it since day 4. It was a solo task, a short distance. And the paired movement protocol was not yet in place because we had not yet decided we needed it. She did not come back by noon. We searched for 4 hours. We found her sample bags, laid in a row on the ground, evenly spaced, as if someone had arranged them. We found one of her boots. We did not find Petra. That night we implemented paired movement, no one outside alone. No one within shouting distance of the others, together or not at all. Ray played solitaire. He played the same hand 3 times without looking at the cards. Day 7 was very long and very quiet, and nothing happened except that we became more afraid than we had been on day 6. Because nothing happening is its own kind of information. Day 8, Denny ran his fuel check. He came back inside and sat down at the table without saying anything for a full minute. Then he opened his log and showed us day 2. The consumption reading, the slight elevation. He showed us day 3, day 4, day 5. Each day, a small decline in the fuel on the second and third vehicles. Each day, the caps had been replaced. Each day, the readings were in a range that could be attributed to use and evaporation. Each day, his log had caught what a gauge would have missed. The fuel lines had not been cut. They had been drained. Steadily over 8 days, caps replaced each time, work done at night, done carefully. 1 truck still had fuel. Enough for all of us, 1 trip down. Ray said it knew we would try to leave today. He said it quietly. He was not speaking to anyone in particular. He was stating a thing that appeared to be true and that had no comfortable explanation. Nobody answered him. We decided to move at first light the next day. Prepare the vehicle that night, load what we needed, and go. Day 9. Dusk comes fast in the Gifford Pinchot in September. By the time we had finished loading the truck, the light was already failing in the trees around the outpost clearing. Ray and Denny were doing a final sweep of the supply shed. Paired as we had been, I was inside, Carla was inside. Marcus was checking the truck bed. I heard Denny shout, not a word. Just a sound, the kind of sound a person makes when language fails what they are seeing. I came out the door. Denny was standing at the edge of the clearing. He was standing very still. Ray was not there. Denny told us later what he had seen. He said it carefully more than once, trying to be accurate. He said that Ray had not fallen. He said that Ray had not run. He said that what happened had happened quickly and from above, and that Ray had been lifted, and that the mechanics of the lifting were not something he could account for. His hands were shaking while he said it. Denny's hands did not shake. I had known him for 6 years. His hands did not shake. Carla stopped speaking after that. Not selectively, not temporarily. She simply stopped. We did not sleep. Day 10, 4 of us. One truck, before dawn. We loaded in and I took the wheel because it was my call and it needed to be someone's call. Denny in the passenger seat, Marcus and Carla in the back. Carla was looking at her hands. Marcus had his pack between his feet, organized by weight distribution, same as every morning. The service road descends through 3 switchbacks before it reaches the lower forest road. It is not a technical drive. In daylight it takes 11 minutes. I have driven it before. I turned on the headlights and I drove. At the first switchback, something was standing in the road. I braked. I want to be exact about what I saw. Because I have been asked to be exact about it. And because I believe the exactness matters even if I cannot explain what the exactness means. The Douglas fir on the left side of that switchback I had measured on day 1 as part of the corridor survey. 62 feet. I had the measurement in my documentation. The figure in the road when upright occupied roughly the lower 1/6 of that tree's height when I used the tree line behind it for reference. When it shifted its weight, which it did twice while I was stopped and watching it, that proportion changed. The shoulders were too wide for the leg length. I do not know how else to say it. The proportions were internally inconsistent in a way that I could perceive but not resolve. The arms ended below the knee. The head sat forward of where the spine should have placed it, as if something about the center of gravity was arranged differently than it should be. It was standing in the center of the road, not blocking, not advancing, waiting. Denny said my name once. I drove. I accelerated toward it and it did not move until the last moment. When it moved, it stepped aside. Not back, not into the trees. Aside, the way you step aside for something you have decided to permit. The headlights swung across the road and there was nothing there, and then the front left wheel caught something in the dark. I do not know what. The truck went over. I remember the impact. I remember the windshield and the sound, and then I remember being on the ground outside the truck with no clear transition between those 2 states. Marcus was out. Denny was out. Carla was out. We were all out. We were not uninjured, but we were out and moving, and the truck was on its side in the drainage ditch at the switchbacks. Edge we walked. We did not discuss it. We simply began walking down the road because it was the only direction that was not the forest closing back in behind us. They followed us, not one. The sound was distributed across the tree line in a way that one figure could not account for. They moved when we moved and stopped when we stopped, and the distance they kept, I estimated it in the moment because estimation is what I had, was 30 to 40 feet. Consistent, not closing, not chasing. Escorting. At the lower junction where the forest road meets the access lane and the trees begin to thin, they stopped. We kept walking. We did not look back for another 100 yards. When I looked back, the tree line was still and the road was empty, and the dark behind us was just dark. They did not come any further. I do not know if it was the light, or if they had already finished what they came to do. Denny's body was recovered 11 miles from the crash site, in a clearing, on his back with his arms crossed over his chest. Marcus was found 3 miles in the opposite direction. Same clearing, same position. Carla was found near the trailhead access gate. Same. The official report listed cause of death for Denny and Marcus as injuries consistent with a vehicle rollover and subsequent exposure. Carla survived. She was found by a highway patrol unit early the following morning, sitting in the road approximately 1 mile from the trailhead entrance. She has not spoken since the night of the 9th. Not to investigators, not to her family, not to me. The official report does not mention the positioning of the bodies. It does not mention the track impressions around the camp. It does not mention the fuel log, which Denny had on his person when he was found, and which shows in his own handwriting the consumption reading beginning on day 2. It does not mention the locker found 40 feet into the tree line before any of us arrived. Petra is listed as missing, presumed dead. She has not been found. The trail was decommissioned 4 months after our return. The notice listed resource management concerns. No further details were provided. The Gifford-Pinchot National Forest Public Affairs Office confirmed by email, when asked, that the decommission was standard procedure following an incident review. The insurance claims were paid out. The vehicles were written off. The file was closed. Kessler Ridge is still on the map. The trailhead marker is still there. I have looked at it on the public trail database within the last week. I am telling you this now because 6 weeks ago the decommission notice was updated. A new assessment has been scheduled. A survey crew has been assigned to the corridor for what the district is calling a revised resource management evaluation. I do not know if they have been told what happened to us. I do not know if anyone who could tell them is permitted to. There is one thing I have never put in any report. One question I have carried since we came down off that mountain that I cannot answer, and that has not left me in the time since. The locker that Briggs found 40 feet into the tree line was still locked when he found it, still locked. The bolt holes in the outpost wall were clean. Whatever crew had been at that outpost before us, one of them had locked something inside that locker from the inside. I do not know what. I do not know if they locked it to keep something in or to keep something out. And I have never told anyone what Denny said in the truck, in the dark. At the moment just before the front wheel caught, and we went over, I was the only one close enough to hear it. I have been asked about it twice in formal settings, and I have said I do not recall. I do recall. I have recalled it every day since. I am not going to repeat it here. What I will tell you is this. I will never again enter a forest where the birds stop and nobody writes it down. I will never again outvote the person with the least experience who is asking to leave. I will never again mistake systematic for natural or patience for absence or stillness for safety. It was not hunting us. It was removing us. The way you remove anything from a place that was never meant for it. The new crew goes in on Friday. Kessler Ridge is still there. And whatever learned our schedule on day 2 and finished its plan on day 9 is still there too. I hope someone with the authority to stop this reads what I have written. I do not expect they will.